What could happen inside a stalled elevator that would make a man who had ignored every woman for 3 years refuse to let the new maid walk away? Nora Hale came to Moretti Tower for one night's pay. She planned to leave before sunrise. Then the elevator stopped between floors. Whatever passed between them in the darkness awakened something Dante Moretti could no longer control. And when the doors finally opened, Nora's temporary job had become the most dangerous temptation of his life. 4 hours before the elevator stopped, Dante Moretti stood in a private medical office fastening his belt, while Dr. Adrian Wells closed the final report. No nurse remained outside. No receptionist had entered Dante's real name into a public system. Men who owned hotels, casinos, politicians' loyalty, and half of Chicago's fear did not allow private weaknesses to become records someone might sell. "There is nothing physically wrong with you," the doctor said. Dante's fingers paused against the silver buckle, then explained 3 years. "Your health is excellent. Whatever is suppressing your interest in women is psychological." "Can medication change it?" "There is nothing physical to medicate." 3 years without desire. 3 years without touching a woman because he wanted her. Models had undressed in his bedroom. Actresses had whispered invitations against his ear. Heiresses from families powerful enough to move markets had offered beauty, loyalty, and every fantasy men were supposed to crave. Dante could recognize perfection and remain untouched by it. His body answered no one. He pulled on his black jacket. Then this appointment was useless. "Your body is still capable of responding." "To what?" "I cannot tell you that." "Then neither can you help me." He left before the doctor could answer. Marco Russo waited beside the private exit. Silver had begun to mark his temples, but nothing about his broad frame or quiet attention suggested age had softened him. He had protected the Moretti family for 19 years and knew when silence was safer than curiosity. "The tower?" he asked. "Where else?" The black sedan entered Moretti Tower through the underground garage shortly before 6. Camilla Serrano was waiting beside the private elevators in a pale silver dress, one hand resting on a white leather bag. She was 32, beautiful in the polished, expensive way society pages rewarded, and exactly the woman Dante's mother believed he should marry. "You missed lunch," she said. "I had an appointment. Anything serious?" "No." Camilla stepped closer and straightened a lapel that did not need adjusting. Her fingertips lingered against his chest. Dante felt pressure, warmth, perfume. "Nothing more. The foundation gala is in 3 weeks," she said. "Your mother expects an answer before then." "My mother often expects answers to questions that are not hers." Camilla rose toward his mouth. Dante turned his head before her lips reached him. Her smile remained, but the warmth vanished from it. "One day you will stop treating women as an inconvenience. One day you may stop treating persistence as permission." The private elevator opened. Dante entered without inviting her. "The Serranos will not wait forever," Camilla said. "Then give them something else to do." The doors closed. Across Chicago, Nora Hale placed $12, a pawn shop ticket, and an eviction notice side by side on the narrow bed of the room she had rented above a laundromat. $12 could buy dinner or a bus ticket. It could not buy both. The pawn shop ticket could return the battered laptop containing the only life she had built entirely for herself, but only if she found $300 by Friday. The eviction notice gave her until 9 the next morning. Her phone lit up. "Grant Mercer. The car arrives at 8 tomorrow. Come home and sign the marriage papers. This childish rebellion ends now." Nora deleted the message. A second arrived before she could block the number. "Your aunt has already apologized. I am willing to forgive you once." Grant's forgiveness had always sounded like a locked door. He was 45, wealthy, respected, and accustomed to people mistaking control for protection. After Nora's mother died, her Aunt Lydia had accepted Grant's help with the mortgage, hospital debts, and a failing family business. His help became leverage. The leverage became an engagement Nora had never agreed to. Grant chose the cafe where she worked, questioned every name on her phone, and once kept her apartment keys for an entire weekend because he believed privacy made women disobedient. When he discovered the stories on her laptop, he called them filthy fantasies and told her a wife would have no need to invent dangerous men who loved too deeply. 2 days before the civil ceremony, Nora packed 3 shirts, her documents, and the laptop. She boarded a bus to Chicago before sunrise. She would rather sleep in a station than return to a house where every door belonged to Grant. A job alert flashed across her screen. Moretti Tower, emergency overnight housekeeper. $400 paid after first shift. Report by 8 p.m. Nora looked at the black and white maid uniform hanging from the back of a chair. $400 would save the room and keep Grant's car from becoming her only option in the morning. She changed, pinned her honey brown hair into a practical knot, and slid the $12 into her pocket. Before leaving, she looked at the empty desk where her laptop had once sat. "One night," she whispered. Returning to Grant would cost the rest of her life. Whatever waited inside Moretti Tower only had to cost one night. The tower rose above the river like a blade of black glass. Nora hurried through the revolving doors at 8:02 and found a stern blonde woman waiting near security. Nora Hale? Her badge read, Denise Warren, Executive Housekeeping. "Yes, the bus. Your shift began 2 minutes ago. It won't happen again. If tonight goes badly, there will not be an again." Denise handed her a temporary badge. "Phone in the locker. No photographs, no questions about guests, no wandering. If an executive speaks to you, answer briefly. If Mr. Moretti speaks to you, answer exactly what he asks and nothing more." "Which Mr. Moretti?" Denise stared at her. "That question is why temporary staff should listen." Nora swallowed the reply that came too late to be useful. $400. The supply cart had one wheel that pulled sharply left. Nora discovered this after it nearly struck a glass wall, then again when it clipped a marble column. She fought it toward the private elevator bank while balancing folded towels and sealed cleaning bottles on the upper shelf. The wheel locked. The cart stopped. Nora did not. Her hip struck the handle, a bottle tipped, and the metal frame rolled into the path of 3 men approaching from the garage corridor. The tallest stopped before it touched him. Nora caught the bottle and looked up. He wore a black suit without a tie. Dark hair was brushed back from a face too controlled to reveal ordinary irritation. Gray eyes moved from the cart to Nora's badge. He was not merely handsome. Handsome felt too gentle for the hard line of his jaw, the width of his shoulders, and the quiet force that made the 2 men behind him wait for his reaction. Nora's first thought was that he looked exactly like the men she used to invent. Her second was that real men were much less convenient. "I'm sorry," she said. The wheel locked. His gaze passed over her uniform. Temporary staff should not block private access. He spoke to the silver-haired man beside him rather than to Nora. The dismissal stung more than open anger. The perfect answer arrived 3 seconds too late. Perhaps private access should not be built beside broken equipment. She said nothing. $400. The stranger pressed the elevator button. Nora bent for the small black notebook that had slipped from her canvas bag. The silver-haired man picked it up first. His eyes rested briefly on the embossed initials, CV, but he did not open it. "You dropped this." "Thank you." "Marco Russo." "Nora Hale." "I know. Your badge." The elevator opened. The stranger entered. Marco followed, then paused. "Get that wheel replaced before it throws you into someone less patient." Nora glanced toward the man inside. "That was patient?" Marco's mouth almost curved. "For him." The doors closed. Denise appeared from the service corridor seconds later. "What did you do?" The cart stopped. That was Dante Moretti. Nora looked at the closed elevator. The owner of the tower, the hotels, the casinos, and enough people's fear that you should never make me explain his name in the lobby again. Service Lift 3 had failed. Lift 4 had flooded on 42. By 10:30, Denise shoved a private access card into Nora's hand. "Executive dining room on 48. Take the west lift. Do not press 50. You already said that. I'm saying it again because curiosity makes people unemployed." Nora rolled the replacement cart into the private elevator. The doors were almost closed when a large hand caught them. Dante Moretti stepped inside. Of course. He had removed his tie, and the first button of his white shirt stood open. Without guards around him, he seemed more dangerous, not less. His gaze settled on the cart. "Under control this time?" "The cart was never the problem. One eyebrow lifted. No? The wheel was. A distinction housekeeping may find comforting. They already replaced it. Then the tower survives. The elevator began rising. Mirrored walls made not looking at him impossible. Nora could see him from every angle while pretending to watch the floor numbers. His scent reached her when the ventilation shifted. Cedar, clean skin, and something darker beneath it. He caught her gaze in the reflection. You look at people differently when they are not blocking your path, she said before caution could stop her. Do I? In the lobby you saw a uniform and a problem. Should I have seen something else? Heat climbed her neck. That is not what I meant. Then say what you mean. The elevator shuddered. The cart slammed into the side wall. Nora reached for it, but the floor dropped beneath her feet. The lights died. She never felt herself hit the ground. A hard arm closed around her waist and pulled her against a solid body. The elevator stopped with a metallic scream. Darkness swallowed everything. For several seconds, neither moved. Nora's cheek rested near the open collar of Dante's shirt. One hand had caught his shoulder. The other was trapped between them. His arm remained tight around her lower back. Are you hurt? His voice sounded lower in the dark. I don't think so. That was not an answer. No, I'm not hurt. Then breathe. I am breathing. Barely. She became acutely aware of his hand at her waist, the heat gathering between their bodies, and the steady beat beneath the palm trapped against his chest. You can let go now. His arm loosened but did not disappear. So can you. Her fingers were twisted in the front of his shirt. She released him immediately. Dante's hand slid away. The absence felt colder than it should have. A dim red emergency light flickered near the floor. The ventilation stopped. Warmth began gathering inside the car. Dante pressed the emergency button. Nothing. He lifted the phone. Silence. That seems encouraging, Nora said. Do you always talk when you're nervous? Do you always sound offended when machinery fails? Machinery usually knows better. Maybe it hasn't met you. The red light pulsed. For an instant, something almost like amusement touched his mouth. The elevator shifted. Nora caught the cart. Dante reached at the same time. His hand closed over hers. The contact lasted less than a second, but his fingers tightened. Nora looked at their hands. You can move yours. He released her. She rubbed her fingers together. What? Nothing. You looked as if something happened. The elevator moved. That is not what I meant. He turned away and opened another button of his shirt. The air was becoming hot. Nora watched the movement, then forced her gaze back toward the dead panel. How long can it stay like this? Until someone opens it. Very reassuring. You wanted honesty. I wanted a number. Numbers do not open doors. Neither does your personality. Dante looked at her. The emergency light flashed, revealing surprise, then control. You're unusually brave for someone whose hands are shaking. They are not. They were when I held them. The words changed the air. Nora folded her hands behind her back. You are very sure of yourself. No, that is the problem. Before she could ask what he meant, the elevator jolted again. A side panel snapped loose. Dante moved instantly, turning between Nora and the metal edge. The panel struck his shoulder. Fabric tore. His hand hit the mirror beside her head while the other arm closed around her waist. The car tilted several degrees. The pose was too close, too intimate, and completely unavoidable. Nora could feel the heat of him through the torn shirt. His face hovered inches above hers. Still not hurt? He asked. No. You're shaking now. The elevator is tilted. That is not why. His gaze dropped to her mouth. Nora felt the change in him before she understood it. His breathing deepened. The hand at her waist flexed. He looked less like the controlled man from the lobby and more like someone fighting himself. Why are you looking at me like that? She whispered. I don't know. The honesty unsettled her. The car leveled. Dante stepped back with visible effort. His shirt had torn from shoulder to upper chest, exposing a narrow cut where the metal had caught him. Blood traced a dark line over his skin. Nora reached instinctively, then stopped. Dante looked at her raised hand. Why did you stop? Because I don't know you. Would knowing my name make this safer? No. Then why does it matter? Because people usually ask before strangers touch them. Something changed in his expression. Her hand remained suspended between them. You noticed the cut? He said. Yes. Does it need attention? Probably. Then decide. You are very strange. So, I have been told. Nora placed 2 fingers lightly near his shoulder. Dante's entire body went still. The touch was careful. She followed the line of the cut, checking for metal beneath the skin. Her fingertips moved lower by less than an inch. Heat struck him with such sudden force that he closed one hand around the cart. For 3 years there had been nothing. Now one shy woman's fingers rested against his chest, and every quiet part of him came alive at once. Nora felt the muscle tighten beneath her touch. She began withdrawing. Dante caught her wrist, not hard, only enough to keep her palm where it was. Wait. Her pulse jumped beneath his thumb. Did I hurt you? No? Then what? He looked down at her hand. 3 years. What about them? Nothing. The word came rough. For 3 years, nothing. The elevator shifted. Dante pulled her toward him before she lost balance. Her back met the mirrored wall. His arm braced beside her head. Her palm flattened against the center of his bare chest. The torn shirt hung from one shoulder. He pulled it free and dropped it beside his jacket. Nora forgot the broken elevator for one dangerous second. He was built like a man who had never been permitted weakness. Broad shoulders. Hard lines. A faint scar near his ribs. But it was not the sight of him that made her breath unsteady. It was the way he looked at her, as if she had become the answer to a question he had stopped asking. His scent wrapped around her before his hands did. Cedar, dark cologne, and clean skin warmed by the trapped air. Do you feel what you're doing? He asked. I'm touching you. That is not all. I don't know what you mean. I think you do. The distance between their mouths narrowed. Tell me to stop, he said. Nora should have. She had come for money, not this. She did not know why his voice had become rough, or why her body leaned toward his warmth. You are the one standing over me. That was not an answer. Neither was your question. His mouth almost curved. Would you regret it if I kissed you? Probably. That is still not no. No, she whispered. It isn't. Dante lowered his head, then stopped with his mouth barely a breath from hers. The pause gave her time to turn away. He waited. Ask me, she said. His eyes darkened. May I kiss you? No one had ever asked Nora that question. Grant had spoken of marriage as if access had already been purchased. Men at the cafe had flirted carelessly, but none had made her want to say yes. She looked at Dante's mouth. Yes. His lips touched hers with control that lasted less than a second. The first kiss was careful, almost testing. Then Nora's fingers tightened against his chest and something inside him broke open. He kissed her again, deeper, one hand sliding from her waist to the back of her neck. Nora had imagined kisses in 100 ways. None had prepared her for the heat of a real mouth, the roughness of his breath, or the way strength could become gentleness without losing power. She did not know where to place her hands. One remained against his heart. The other caught his shoulder. Dante felt her uncertainty and slowed. Look at me. Nora opened her eyes. Have you done this before? Of course. The lie lasted one heartbeat. No, you haven't. She tried to turn away. His thumb guided her back without force. Do not lie to me. Then don't ask questions you already answered. The elevator bell rang once in the darkness. Neither looked toward the doors. Dante rested his forehead against hers. Who are you? Nora. Nora what? Hale. He repeated it quietly, as if fixing the name somewhere permanent. Metal scraped outside. Voices sounded from the shaft. The emergency light brightened. The doors began opening by inches. Cold hallway light entered the car. Dante turned instinctively, shielding Nora from the widening gap. Maintenance workers forced the doors apart. Marco stood outside with 2 guards. Denise hovered behind them. Camilla was several feet away, silver dress bright under the corridor lights. No one spoke. They saw Dante without a shirt, one arm above Nora's head, his other hand at her waist. They saw Nora's loosened hair, broken badge, and palm still resting against his chest. Marco lowered his gaze first. Mr. Moretti. Nora's hand fell away. Dante stepped back and became someone else before her eyes. His breathing steadied. His shoulders straightened. Whatever she had seen in the dark vanished behind authority. Denise pushed through. Nora Hale, what did you do? The elevator stopped. Why is Mr. Moretti? Denise looked at the shirt on the floor and failed to finish. Camilla's gaze moved from Dante's bare chest to Nora's mouth. Interesting. Denise reached for Nora's badge. This assignment is over. No, Dante said. The hallway went silent. Sir? She stays. Camilla's expression hardened. Denise looked between them. Of course. I can assign her to the 50th floor. Nora stared at him. What? Dante's eyes met hers. There was no warmth in them now, but the memory of the elevator remained between them like a secret. Effective tonight. Miss Hale works on my floor. Camilla stepped closer. Dante, your residence has not employed. I know whom my residence employs. He looked at Marco. Replace every emergency line. I want the report before morning. Then he turned toward the private corridor. After 3 steps, he stopped without looking back. Bring Miss Hale to my office at midnight. Nora watched him disappear behind frosted glass. Denise pulled Nora into a supply room and shut the door. Do you understand what you just did? I got trapped in an elevator. With Dante Moretti. I noticed when everyone stopped, breathing. No woman works on his floor. Camilla seemed interested. Miss Serrano visits. When the family arranges it, she does not stay. No one stays. Denise paced once between shelves of towels. 3 years, Nora. He has dismissed assistants for wearing perfume too strongly. He sends actresses out of private dinners without touching their hands. You have been here 4 hours, and he is moving you into the only residence in the tower where women are not allowed. Nora remembered his heartbeat beneath her palm. 3 years. Nothing. Maybe he wants a witness nearby until the elevator report is finished. Denise looked at Nora's swollen mouth. Keep telling yourself that if it helps. A knock sounded. Marco waited outside. Miss Hale, Mr. Moretti wants you upstairs at midnight. For what? He did not explain. I'm supposed to be paid after the shift. Marco handed her a black envelope. 4 crisp $100 bills rested inside. Your shift is complete. Enough to save the room. Enough to make Grant's car irrelevant. Am I required to go upstairs? No. Would anyone tell him that? You just did. And if I refuse, I take you home. That simple? Marco's expression remained serious. Mr. Moretti is many things. He does not need guards to force women into rooms. The answer eased one fear and sharpened another. I'll speak to him. At 11:58, Nora stepped through the frosted doors of the 50th floor. Moretti Tower disappeared behind her. The private residence was quieter than any place she had ever entered. Black marble reflected low amber lights. Dark wood lined the walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Chicago. The city spread beneath the glass like scattered gold. There were no family photographs, no bright colors, no evidence that anyone laughed there. A silver-haired woman in a navy dress waited near a console table. You are younger than I expected, she said. Expected for what? That is an excellent question. She handed Nora a folded dress. Rosa Bellini. I have managed this residence for 23 years. Your uniform is damaged. It's only the badge. Your collar is torn. Nora looked down. Heat returned to her face. Rosa's gaze became almost kind. Guest room to the left. Change. Mr. Moretti dislikes waiting. Does anyone ever tell him other people dislike being summoned at midnight? Not twice. The navy dress was simple and modest. Nora changed, left the broken badge on the dresser, and followed Rosa down a hall lined with old paintings. Dante's office door stood open. He sat behind a massive desk wearing a fresh white shirt open at the throat. The cut on his shoulder had been cleaned. On one security screen, a frozen image showed shadows inside the elevator. His body shielding hers, her hand against him, their faces close. You recorded us, Nora said. The elevator did. You were watching. I was confirming what happened. Did the camera explain it? No. He turned the screen off. Nora remained standing. Why am I here? I am offering you a position. You announced that before asking. 6 weeks on the private floor. $2,000 per week, housing included. Your first month paid in advance. Nora stared. For cleaning? For discretion, availability, and maintaining the residence. Availability means what? That depends on you. The heat in his gaze returned her to the dark elevator. You cannot buy what happened in there. I am not trying to. It sounds as if you are. Dante stood and walked around the desk, stopping several feet away. For 3 years I have not wanted a woman. Nora's breath caught despite knowing. In the elevator I wanted you. The blunt confession was more intimate than the kiss. And now you want to keep me here until you understand why. Yes. You could try flowers. I do not think flowers will answer the question. That was sarcasm. I know. Do you? His mouth almost moved. I am learning. Nora looked toward the windows. $2,000 a week could recover her laptop, secure a new apartment, and hire someone to stop Grant from using her aunt's debt as a leash. Yet the money could also become another locked door if she was not careful. If I take the job, anything personal is separate. Agreed. If you ask to touch me and I say no, the salary stays the same. Yes. My room remains mine. You knock. Yes. My notebook, phone, and laptop are private. Unless they threaten security. A story does not threaten security. His gaze flicked to the canvas bag near her feet. Agreed. And you do not treat me as if I disappear when other people are watching. Something unreadable crossed his face. What does that mean? It means if you are ashamed of what happened in the elevator, do not ask for it again. I am not ashamed. You looked through me the second the doors opened. There were people watching. Exactly. Dante took one step closer. You expected me to kiss you in the hallway? Nora's face heated. That is not what I said. Then say what you mean. She lifted her chin. Do not make me feel important in private and invisible in public. He held her gaze. Agreed. Nora did not know then how deeply that promise would wound her when he broke it. She reached into her bag for identification. The pawnshop ticket slipped free and landed near Dante's shoe. He picked it up before she could. Give me that. He read only the amount and redemption date. A laptop? It is mine. Why pawn it? Landlords do not accept pages as rent. Pages? She took the ticket. You agreed my things were private. You have not signed anything. Then perhaps I should leave. She turned. Nora. The way he said her name stopped her. Not Miss Hale, not employee. Nora. She looked back. Was the elevator a mistake? He asked. It stopped unexpectedly. That is not what I meant. The kiss? Yes. Her pulse quickened. I don't know. Neither do I. You sound offended by uncertainty. I am. Then practice. Practice what? Not controlling every answer. Something dangerous and hungry entered his eyes. He approached until only a narrow distance remained. May I kiss you again? He had remembered. No falling elevator, no red light, no fear disguised as adrenaline. Full light, open space, and a door she could walk through. Yes, Nora said. Dante touched her face and kissed her. The response was immediate. The moment their mouths met, he knew the elevator had not been responsible. Nora's hands rose to his chest. Dante deepened the kiss, drawing her closer, until the desk pressed behind her hips. She followed him uncertainly. When his lips moved along her jaw, she made a quiet sound that broke another layer of his restraint. His hand found her waist. Nora stiffened. Dante stopped. What? Nothing. Do not lie. I'm not. You are. He touched her chin and turned her face back. You had never been kissed before the elevator. Her cheeks burned. I thought I managed. You did. Then why ask? Because you are afraid now. Nora could have lied. I've never been with anyone. Dante's hand dropped from her waist. Grant. He never had permission. But you were expected to marry him. Expected is not the same as agreed. Dante stepped back. The distance felt abrupt and cold. You should have told me. You didn't ask. You wrote rules for everything except that. I didn't know we would reach this point tonight. He ran one hand through his hair. The first uncontrolled gesture she had seen. You need the job. Yes. You have nowhere else to go tomorrow. I have a room if I pay before 9. And I am your employer. Nora understood. So now I'm too desperate to want you? I did not say that. You didn't have to. Nora, I can be poor and still know what I want. Can you? Yes. You met me 4 hours ago. You kissed me twice. That proves desire, not judgment. Perhaps I don't need judgment tonight. The words surprised both of them. Dante's eyes darkened. For one charged second, she thought he would pull her back. Instead, he opened the office door. Rosa will show you your room. The rejection stung. Good night, Mr. Moretti. Dante. Not in daylight, apparently. She walked out. Dante remained beside the open door long after her footsteps disappeared. Her inexperience should have cooled him. Her financial dependence should have made distance easy. Instead, the knowledge that the uncertain kiss in the elevator had been her first sharpened every instinct he was trying to control. For the first time in 3 years, the problem was not that he felt nothing. It was that he felt too much for the one woman he should have left alone. Morning transformed him. Rosa entered Nora's suite at 7 with a fresh uniform folded over one arm. You are the elevator girl. I prefer Nora. Good. People who accept labels too quickly spend their lives wearing ones they did not choose. Rosa placed the uniform on the bed. Breakfast at 7:30. Mr. Moretti takes coffee without sugar, eggs he rarely eats, and telephone calls no one enjoys. Does he always eat alone? For 3 years. Nora looked at her. Rosa looked back. Everyone knows better than to discuss it. Yet everyone mentions it. I may like you. At 7:30, Dante sat at the kitchen island in a charcoal suit, reading messages on a tablet. He did not look up when Nora entered. Her body remembered the office even if his expression did not. Good morning, she said. Miss Hale. The formal name landed exactly where he intended. Rosa has your schedule. Library, west sitting room, dining inventory. My office is not entered while I'm away. Understood. Your first month's salary has been deposited. Thank you. Camilla entered through the private corridor wearing a cream suit. She looked from Nora to Dante and smiled. You kept her. Dante did not look up. Miss Hale is temporary staff. Do not turn housekeeping into gossip. Nora felt the words strike harder than they should have. Temporary staff. Less than 12 hours earlier, he had kissed her as if 3 years of hunger had found one name. Camilla's satisfaction sharpened. Of course. Dante lifted his coffee. Anything else, Miss Hale? Nora stared at him. No. Then continue your work. She walked away before humiliation reached her eyes. Behind her, Dante's hand tightened around the cup until the porcelain cracked. He had chosen the cruel sentence because it was safer than allowing Camilla to see how much Nora affected him. The excuse did not make it less cruel. The private floor was a life designed to prevent surprise. Dante's shirts were arranged by color, fabric, and season. His books were ordered by subject, then language. The kitchen contained appliances that appeared untouched. Every room was expensive, immaculate, and emotionally empty. Nora cleaned the library while Rosa replaced flowers. Does he ever relax? Nora asked. He sleeps occasionally. That is not the same thing. No. Why does he live like this? You ask many questions. No one answers. Perhaps that is why you continue. At noon, Dante returned with Marco and 2 attorneys. He passed through the library while Nora stood on a ladder dusting upper shelves. His eyes lifted to her legs, then immediately to the book in her hand. That volume belongs 3 shelves lower. It was 3 shelves lower. It was also in the wrong century. One attorney stopped speaking. Marco looked down at the carpet. My books are arranged according to my system. Your system placed an 18th century memoir beside modern crime fiction. It was there for a reason. What reason? Dante looked at the spine, then at her. I no longer remember. Then my system wins. He took the book and placed it where she indicated. Do not fall. That sounded concerned. It was an instruction. Of course. He walked away. Marco followed, but not before giving Nora a look that might have been approval. That night, the penthouse silence kept her awake. At 2:17, the private elevator bell sounded once. A minute later, again, Nora pulled on a thin robe and stepped into the hall. Light glowed beneath the elevator control room door. She knocked. No answer. She entered. Dante stood before a wall of monitors wearing black trousers and a white shirt with sleeves rolled to his elbows. The center screen showed elevator footage. Nora thrown toward him, his arm closing around her, darkness swallowing the image. He paused before the kiss. Do you watch all employees after midnight? She asked. Only the ones who rearrange my library. Exclusive. He turned. His gaze moved over her robe, bare feet, and loose hair. She looked younger without the uniform, and somehow more dangerous. Why are you awake? The elevator bell. A sensor is being tested. I thought someone was trapped. Someone was. Nora looked at the screen. Did you find your answer? Yes. The elevator? No. His eyes returned to her. You. Her fingers tightened around the robe belt. That is short for a man who likes complete control. Dante crossed the room. I spent all day trying not to come to your door. Why didn't you? Because you told me you had never been kissed. That did not change overnight. No. He stopped close enough for her to feel warmth. Neither did what I want. Then what are you doing? Giving you another chance to say no. You already gave me one. You were angry. I am still angry. Good. Anger is honest. He lifted one hand but did not touch her. Your job remains. Your room remains. Your salary remains. If you want distance, take it now. Nora looked at the open hallway behind her, then at the hunger he no longer hid. And if I stay? Then I stop pretending I do not know your answer. She placed her hand in his. He drew her closer slowly. His mouth met hers with restraint, holding back a storm. Nora touched his shoulders, more certain than before. Dante felt the difference and deepened the kiss. The control room disappeared. There was only warmth, breath, and the quiet sound she made when his lips moved along her throat. He carried her toward his bedroom, then stopped at the threshold. Push me away now, Nora. She touched his face. Open the door. The room beyond was dark except for city light crossing black sheets. Dante placed her on the edge of the bed and stood before her as if he had forgotten what came after wanting. Nora reached for him. You are thinking too much. I have not done this in 3 years. I have never done it. A rough, disbelieving laugh escaped him. Then we are both in trouble. He kissed her slowly, learning her reactions with care that contradicted every rumor attached to his name. He did not turn every movement into a question. Instead, he watched. When she leaned closer, he continued. When she drew back, he waited. When nervousness entered her breathing, his hand stilled against her waist until she chose to move it herself. Each choice made his restraint more fragile. She had expected power to be impatient. Dante's patience became its own intensity. When fear briefly crossed her expression, he stopped completely. Look at me, she did. Tell me to stop. Nora wrapped her arms around him. Stay, he did. The night unfolded in whispers, pauses, and touches that made Nora understand why imagination had never been enough. Dante held himself back until she stopped holding fear inside her body. When the final distance disappeared, he stayed still, forehead against hers, waiting for discomfort to ease and trust to return. You decide, he whispered. Nora pulled him closer. Later, with the city blurred beyond the windows, she lay against his chest, listening to the heartbeat she had first felt inside the elevator. Was it only me? She asked. What? The elevator. Tonight. Was it only because your body finally decided to work again? His hand moved slowly along her back. I don't know. Honesty hurt more than a lie. Nora lifted her head. Then what do you offer? Tonight. She should have asked for more. Instead, she closed her eyes. Stay until morning, she said. The request changed his face. All right. She slept with his arm around her. Morning arrived cold and bright. Nora reached across the bed and found empty sheets. Dante's side was cold. She dressed and found him in the kitchen, immaculate in a black suit, speaking to Marco about hotel security. Camilla stood beside the window, scrolling through her phone. Dante glanced at Nora once. "Miss Hale, Rosa has your schedule." The hope from the night before cracked quietly. "You said you would stay until morning." "It is morning. You know what I meant." Marco turned toward the windows. Camilla looked up with interest. Dante's expression closed. "Miss Hale is temporary staff. Private matters are not discussed at breakfast." Nora felt as if he had stripped every tender word from the night and left her standing in the cold. Camilla smiled. "How sensible." Nora lifted her chin. "Of course, Mr. Moretti." She walked away before he saw the tears she refused to give him. The pattern began there. By day, Dante became distance. He passed Nora in corridors without letting his hand brush hers. He gave instructions in a measured voice and used Miss Hale like a wall between them. By night, the wall disappeared. On the second night, he knocked once at her door and waited. Nora opened it wearing a pale cotton nightdress beneath her robe. "I thought you would summon me. I am trying something new. Knocking? Do not make me regret it." She stepped aside. He entered, but instead of reaching for her, he noticed the small red mark on her wrist where Grant had once grabbed her during the engagement dinner. "What happened?" "Old argument. With Grant?" "Yes." Dante touched the skin so gently she almost hated him for making tenderness feel effortless in darkness. "Did he hurt you?" "He tried to remind me I belonged to him." Dante's jaw tightened. "You did not." "No. You do not belong to anyone." Nora searched his face, wondering whether he believed the words when they applied to himself. That night he kissed the scar before he kissed her mouth. The next morning he asked Rosa to replace the flowers without acknowledging Nora at the table. On the third night, Nora found him in the library with 2 glasses of wine and a book he was not reading. "You called me here to watch you pretend to read?" "You were awake. How do you know?" "Your light was on. You watch my door?" "I notice it." She sat across from him. They spoke about nothing important. The books she had moved, Chicago winters, why Dante distrusted decorative pillows, and the conversation felt more intimate than some kisses. When Nora rose to leave, Dante caught her hand and pressed his mouth to her palm. "You should go," she whispered. "Do you want me to?" "I should. That was not what I asked." Nora's pulse jumped. He rose, keeping her hand against his mouth. "Open the door if you want me gone." She did not. The next morning he handed her a list of library corrections without looking up. On the 4th night, they danced without music beside the windows. Dante's hand rested at her waist. Nora's cheek lay near his chest. "You do not dance badly," he said. "That sounds almost kind." "Do not become accustomed." Too late. He smiled, small and unwilling. Nora carried the image into sleep. At breakfast, he called her Miss Hale and asked for coffee. Each private moment pulled her deeper. Each daylight rejection reminded her that the relationship had walls. She told herself 6 weeks would end. She would take the money, recover her independence, and leave. Then Dante looked at her after midnight, as if every second apart had cost him something, and leaving became harder to imagine. At the end of the first week, he returned early and found Nora laughing with Marco near the service entrance. Marco was repairing the clasp on her damaged staff badge. His fingers worked close to the white collar. Dante's gaze dropped to the contact. "Is there a problem?" Marco released the badge. "Broken clasp. Housekeeping can replace it." "Housekeeping gave me the broken one," Nora said. "Then buy another." "With the generous salary you keep mentioning?" "If necessary." Marco handed it back and left. Nora watched him go. "You frightened him." "Marco is not easily frightened." "Then you annoyed him. He will recover." Nora tilted her head. "Were you jealous?" "No." You answered quickly, because the answer was simple. "Of course." That night he kissed her with unusual intensity, backing her against the library door and stopping with his mouth at her ear. "You know what happens when you look at another man and laugh like that?" "I was not looking at him like anything." You were smiling. Am I forbidden from smiling? No. His mouth moved along her jaw. But I am done pretending it does not make me jealous. Nora's fingers caught his shirt. That almost sounded honest. It was a warning. To whom? Myself. The private dinner that changed the balance between them took place 10 days after the elevator. 12 men gathered around Dante's dining table, casino investors, hotel partners, and 2 city officials whose names appeared often in newspapers and never beside the whole truth. Camilla sat at Dante's right wearing deep red. Nora served wine beside Rosa. Dante did not look at Nora directly, though she felt his awareness every time she crossed the room. The previous night he had held her beneath city light and whispered her name against her throat. Now she could have been any member of staff. Near the end of dinner, a heavy-set investor named Paul Voss caught Nora's wrist as she reached for his empty glass. So this is the elevator girl. Conversation softened but did not stop. Nora tried to pull free. Please release me. Paul smiled, his breath thick with whiskey. The whole tower knows. Private elevator breaks, boss loses his shirt, pretty maid gets promoted, efficient first shift. His thumb pressed into the inside of her wrist. Does private service extend to guests? The chair at the head of the table moved. Dante reached Paul before Nora understood he had stood. He closed one hand around the investor's wrist and forced it backward until the smile collapsed into pain. Take your hand off her. Dante, it was a joke. Dante increased the pressure. Paul released Nora. I did not laugh. Neither did I. Apparently. Dante shoved the man's hand flat against the table. Glasses shook. Touch her again, and it is the last thing you do with that hand. Silence filled the room. Camilla stared at Dante, then Nora. Dante looked at the red marks around Nora's wrist. Go upstairs. The order struck harder than Paul's grip. I can finish serving. Rosa will finish. Dante, now. Nora placed the bottle down and left beneath every watching eye. She waited in her room for anger to settle. It did not. Protection should have made her feel safe. Instead, she felt claimed and dismissed in the same breath. Near midnight, someone knocked. Dante remained outside when she opened the door, as if remembering the rule. His knuckles were bruised. A white bandage wrapped one hand. Come in, Nora said before he asked. He stepped inside. You hit him after I left. Yes. Why? He touched you. Many people touch me. Not like that. And that made me yours? His jaw tightened. I did not say you were mine. You didn't need to. Nora held up her wrist. Did you hurt him because he frightened me? Or because he touched something you think belongs to you? Both. The honesty stunned her. That is not a good answer. It is the truth. Grant used to say he protected what belonged to him. Dante's expression changed. I am not Grant. Then do not sound like him. He tried to force you into marriage. He offered safety, money, a house, and everything people said I should want. The price was that I stopped being a person when he entered the room. Nora's voice shook, but she did not look away. I did not run from one beautiful cage to enter a more expensive one. Dante moved closer, then stopped before touching her. You believe this is a cage? At night, no. The answer hurt to admit. In daylight sometimes. He looked at his injured hand. I do not know how to do this. Do what? Want someone. The anger inside Nora softened despite her resistance. Dante raised his eyes. I know how to protect people. I know how to remove threats. I know how to control rooms and men who believe they cannot be controlled. I do not know how to watch another man put his hand on you and remain reasonable. I did not ask you to be reasonable. What did you ask? To see me before you defend me. He lifted one hand toward her face and waited. Nora leaned into it. His palm settled against her cheek. I see you. Only now? More than I should. He kissed her slowly at first, then with the desperation he had hidden at the dinner table. Nora felt his anger become vulnerability beneath her hands. He held her as if reassurance required touch. If you want me gone, open the door, he said against her mouth. Nora looked at the dried blood on his knuckles, the fear in his eyes, and the powerful man waiting for her choice. She reached behind him and turned the lock. Later, forehead against hers, he whispered, "I could have killed him." That would have been inconvenient for the dinner schedule. A surprised laugh escaped him. Brief, rough, unfamiliar. Nora smiled. "You laughed." "No, you did. Do not tell anyone. Your reputation would never recover." For one quiet hour, daylight and darkness seemed capable of belonging to the same man. The next morning, Dante stayed until Nora woke. He sat in the chair near her window, head tilted back, injured hand open on the armrest. It was not enough, but it was something. That evening, 3 assistants carried boxes into Nora's sitting room. Jewelry, shoes, designer dresses, a tablet displaying cars. Nora stared until Dante appeared in the doorway. "What is this?" "Choose something." "Why?" "Because I want to give you something." "You already pay me." "This is not salary." "Is it an apology?" "If necessary." Nora closed a jewelry box. "I don't need diamonds." "Then choose a car." "I don't drive." "A wardrobe." "I have clothes." "You have 3 dresses." "You counted?" Rosa did. From the hall, Rosa said, "Do not involve me in your bad decisions, Mr. Moretti." Nora hid a smile. Dante ignored her. "Name something." Nora thought of the pawnshop ticket folded in her bag. "A laptop." Dante frowned. "A laptop?" "You asked. I offered anything. That is what I want." "Why?" "Because there is a world that belongs to me, and I have not been able to enter it since I pawned the only door." His gaze sharpened. "Writing," Nora stiffened. "Marco told you about the notebook?" "Only that you carried one. It is private. You made that rule." "And?" "I remember rules." The answer warmed her despite herself. "A laptop," he repeated. "Nothing else." Nothing else. By noon the next day, Marco delivered 2 boxes. The first contained Nora's old laptop from the pawn shop, cleaned and repaired. The second held a new silver computer more powerful than anything she had ever owned, along with headphones and a small microphone. Nora touched the scratched lid of the old machine. Her mother had bought it after Nora won a school writing contest. It had survived cheap apartments, cafe shifts, Grant's insults, and the bus ride out of her arranged life. "He recovered it," she whispered. Marco nodded. "He said unfinished work should not belong to a pawn shop." Nora looked toward the hall. "Tell him thank you. Tell him yourself." Dante stood near the elevator, pretending to read his phone. Nora crossed the floor. "You bought the old one too. It belonged to you. You didn't have to buy the new one. The old one is slow. You opened it?" "No. How did you know?" Marco asked a technician. She smiled before she could stop herself. Dante watched the expression, as though it were another impossible response. "Thank you. What will you write?" The question was almost there. Nora waited. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen. "I have a meeting." The moment disappeared. "Of course," he walked away. That night, after Dante left her bed before dawn, Nora opened the new laptop. A blank document waited. For weeks she had believed she had no story left. Then the words came. He kept every door locked except the one through which he entered her room after midnight. By day he called her Miss Vale. By night he said her first name as if it hurt. Nora wrote until the city lightened. The fictional hero became Luca Varon, owner of a hotel with a forbidden top floor. The heroine became a quiet art conservator, hired to restore paintings no guest was allowed to see. Nora changed the elevator, the uniform, the names, and the rooms. She kept the contradiction. A man who protected a woman's body and neglected her heart. A woman who mistook hunger for hope until she learned to leave. She published the first chapter under the pen name Celia Vane. The title was The Man Behind the Locked Floor. By the end of the week, 10,000 people had read it. By the second, 100,000. Comments arrived faster than Nora could answer. He wants her, but he is terrified of needing her. She cannot keep accepting half of him. Why does the daylight version hurt more than the villain? Nora read every message while Dante slept several rooms away, unaware that strangers were discussing the parts of him she understood least. The story spread through Moretti Tower before Nora realized anyone inside the building had found it. She entered the staff kitchen one afternoon and heard two maids arguing over the latest chapter. "He is in love with her," one said. "No, he's addicted to how she makes him feel. That is how men like him start. And how do they finish?" "Begging, hopefully," the women laughed. Nora placed folded towels on a shelf, hiding her smile. Rosa sat at the table with a phone in one hand. "The writer is cruel." "You read Celia Vane?" a maid asked. "I read many things. Do you think the heroine should forgive him?" Rosa's gaze moved briefly to Nora. "Not until he learns to remain kind after sunrise." Nora nearly dropped the towels. Elena Moretti arrived that evening for dinner. Dante's mother was 61, elegant, silver-haired, and capable of making a room feel judged before she spoke. Camilla came with her, accompanied by her cousin Leon Serrano, the attorney responsible for several family contracts. Nora carried coffee into the sitting room, while Elena discussed the foundation gala. "Moretti Media's digital platform has finally produced something useful," Elena said. "Have you heard of Celia Vane?" Camilla crossed one leg over the other. "The romance writer? She has doubled Midnight Inc.'s readership in less than a month." Elena took the phone Camilla offered and scrolled. "This is surprisingly perceptive." Nora kept the coffee pot steady. Elena read another line. "She understands men who mistake silence for strength." Dante glanced toward Nora. Nora looked at the cup she was filling. "The platform wants a long-term contract," Elena continued. "If the numbers hold, we may invite the writer to the gala." "No one knows who she is," Camilla said. "Mystery cells." Elena handed back the phone, then looked at Nora for the first time. "The coffee is cold." It was not. Nora replaced it anyway. Elena had praised her words while failing to see the woman holding the pot. The irony should have pleased her. Instead, it lodged beneath her ribs. Later, Nora returned to the library writing room and found Leon standing beside her open laptop. "Step away from that," she said. He looked over his shoulder. "Private floor devices fall under legal review. That is my computer. Used inside a Moretti residence." He placed one hand on the lid. "Passwords? No. Your employment agreement includes security compliance. It excludes my writing. A maid does not interpret contracts. For a Serrano attorney." He tried to pull the laptop toward him. Nora caught it. Leon grabbed her forearm and tightened his grip. "Release it. Let go of me." The door opened. Dante entered. He saw Leon's fingers around Nora's arm and the laptop trapped between them. The temperature of the room seemed to drop. "Take your hand off her." Leon did not release Nora quickly enough. "Dante, this computer may contain—" Dante crossed the room. He seized Leon's wrist, forced his hand flat against the desk, and bent him over the edge. Leon shouted. The laptop remained inches from his trapped fingers. "That hand touched her work after she told you not to." "I represent the Serrano family." Dante increased the pressure. "Not anymore. You cannot terminate counsel over a maid's device." Dante's voice became quieter. "Touch her again. Touch her work again. Or use that word as if it makes her less. And the next sound you hear will be your hand breaking." Camilla appeared in the doorway. "Dante, stop." He looked at Nora. "Do you want him released?" Nora's arm throbbed where Leon had gripped it. "Yes." Dante released him instantly. Leon stumbled upright, clutching his wrist. Dante looked at Marco, who had arrived behind Camilla. "Remove every Serrano attorney from Moretti business before midnight." Camilla went pale. "You would destroy years of legal work because Leon touched a laptop?" Nora looked at Dante, expecting another possessive answer. His gaze stayed on the computer. "Because it mattered to her, and he believed that did not matter to me." Something inside Nora shifted. After Leon and Camilla left, she touched the laptop. "You protected the work." "I protected what was yours. You did not even ask what it is." Shame flickered across his face. "I should, yes. Will you tell me?" Nora looked at the closed document. "Not yet." Dante nodded, though impatience tightened his jaw. "Then, not yet." During dinner the next night, Elena announced that the Serrano family would attend the gala as honored partners, despite the legal dispute. "The timing is appropriate," she said. "A formal understanding between the families will stabilize several projects." Camilla smiled. "My father agrees." Dante cut into his meal. "I do not." Elena's gaze sharpened. "You have avoided this conversation for 3 years. Then another month will not surprise you. This is about responsibility." Camilla reached across and touched his wrist. He felt nothing. Nora noticed anyway. "We are not asking for a wedding tomorrow," Camilla said. "Only an announcement allowing both families to move forward." Dante removed his wrist from beneath her hand. "Nothing will be announced without my consent." It was not a refusal. Nora stood behind Elena's chair and understood how easily powerful men hid decisions inside incomplete answers. After dinner, Camilla entered Dante's study while Nora collected glasses. The door remained partly open. "You cannot keep avoiding the obvious," Camilla said. "We fit. On paper. Most marriages begin with less." Nora stepped into the doorway with the tray. Camilla stood close to Dante, one hand against his chest as she adjusted his collar. Dante's expression remained cold. Nora knew he felt nothing. She knew because she had felt what happened when he did. The knowledge did not stop jealousy from cutting through her. A glass tilted. Nora caught it before it fell. Camilla turned. "Careful. Private elevators seem to suit your balance better than public rooms." "The documents are here," Nora said. "Then leave." Nora looked at Dante. He should have corrected her. He should have remembered the promise. Voices sounded in the adjoining room. Serrano advisors. Vittorio Moretti. A negotiation whose value Nora could not imagine. Dante's expression closed. "Nora, you may leave." The wrong person had been dismissed. She lifted the tray. "Of course, Mr. Moretti." Camilla's smile followed her out. Nora made it to the service corridor before the first tear fell. She wiped it angrily and opened her laptop on a housekeeping cart. Her fingers moved hard across the keys. A man could desire a woman in darkness and still abandon her in the light. The chapter reached 500,000 reads before midnight. Dante found her beside the service elevator. "You disappeared. You told me to leave. The room. I understood. Camilla means nothing." Nora looked at him. "You still think that is the problem?" "She touched me. I felt nothing." "Congratulations." "Nora. She called me convenient. She said I was a temporary body you kept behind locked doors. I looked at you, and you sent me away." The Serrano advisors were in the next room. "Exactly. If I had challenged her there, the agreement would have collapsed." "Then you chose the agreement." "It is not that simple." "It felt simple from where I stood." Dante moved closer. "You are the only woman I want. Only where no one can see. That is not true." "Then prove it." "How?" "Tell Camilla there will be no engagement." "The board." Nora laughed once, broken and bitter. "There is always another room where I have to become smaller so Dante Moretti can remain powerful." She turned toward the elevator. Dante caught the doors before they closed. "Do not leave." "Why?" "Because I cannot breathe properly when I think you are walking away." The confession weakened her anger without healing it. "That is need." "I know. Not love. I never learned the difference." He touched her face. "Teach me." Nora's eyes burned. "I am not another service you call after midnight." "I know. Do you?" He kissed her, then stopped himself and drew back. His voice came rough. "Tell me to stop." This time Nora did not reach for him. She looked at the closed elevator doors, the man who could hunger for her and still fail her before witnesses, and the pain of becoming two different women in his life. "Stop, Dante." He went completely still. The word seemed to strike harder than any threat. Nora stepped into the elevator alone. He did not follow. As the doors closed, she saw the first true fear enter his face. The weeks that followed were not empty, but something had changed. Dante did not come to her room for 3 nights. He remained polite, distant, and visibly sleepless. On the 4th morning, Nora found a small brass key on her desk. "What does it open?" she asked Rosa. The library writing room. He's never given anyone access. Nora found a sunlit room hidden behind shelves with an old desk facing the river. No cameras, no security monitor. A place inside Dante's home that did not feel watched. On the desk sat a note in his sharp handwriting. I will not ask what you write until you choose to tell me. I only wanted you to have somewhere no one could enter without permission. The gesture reached deeper than jewelry ever could. That night Nora found him in the library. He stood when she entered but did not move toward her. Thank you, she said. It was a room no one used. You are lying. Poorly? Very. I am learning. Nora looked at him. I am still angry. I know. I meant stop. I know. And you stopped. I will always stop. Silence stretched. Dante's eyes moved to her mouth, then away. For once, he chose restraint without turning it into punishment. Good night, Nora. He left first. She loved him before she admitted it. It happened in ordinary fragments. When he moved a meeting because Rose's knee hurt and pretended it was a scheduling issue. When he brought Nora soup after she caught a cold and remained on the floor beside her bed until she finished it. When he listened to her explain why an entire shelf of his library had been mislabeled and accepted defeat with grace, he offered no one else. They found their way back to each other slowly, with fewer declarations and more mornings. Dante began staying for breakfast, even when he did not touch her the night before. Once, after waking from a rare nightmare, he came to her door, knocked, and stood with his hand raised until she opened. He lay beside her, fully dressed, and asked her to talk until he could sleep. Nora told him a story she had never published about a woman who inherited a ruined theater and rebuilt it one seat at a time. When Dante finally slept, his grip loosened but did not release her. Love did not make his daylight silence less painful. It made it dangerous enough to break her. The second public confrontation happened during a private charity reception 2 weeks before the gala. Nora wore a navy dress Dante had not chosen and stood beside Rosa near the terrace doors. A young heir named Sebastian Ward, drunk on champagne and his father's importance, placed one hand against Nora's lower back while asking whether Dante allowed his private staff to dance. Nora stepped away. Sebastian followed. Relax, I only want one song. I said no. You work for men who do not hear no. His hand returned to her waist. Dante appeared before Nora could raise her voice. He caught Sebastian by the throat and drove him against a marble column. Champagne crashed to the floor. Guests froze. No one touches her. Sebastian clawed at his wrist. I was dancing. She said no. Dante, Nora said. He did not release him. Sebastian's face reddened. Dante's eyes held no hesitation. Touch her again, and it is the last thing you do with that hand. Dante. Nora stepped closer. Look at me, he did. Let him go. Dante released Sebastian immediately. The heir slid down the column, coughing. Dante turned to the guards. Remove him and his family from every Moretti property. Nora caught his arm. That is enough. It is not. For me, it is. He looked at her. The room watched. For once, Dante did not send Nora away. He placed one hand at the small of her back, exactly where Sebastian had touched, but waited until she leaned into it. No one touches my woman, he said, loud enough for the room. The phrase moved through Nora like heat and warning. Camilla heard it from across the reception. Her face became still. Later in the private corridor, Nora confronted Dante. Your woman? You are. Did I agree to that title? You came to me last night. That is not the same as belonging to you. I did not say you belonged to me. You said it to the entire room. Dante moved closer. Then correct me. What? Tell me you are not the woman I want beside me. Nora stared into his eyes. The possessive certainty should have angered her. Instead, desire moved dangerously beneath the anger. Dante lowered his mouth near hers. If you want distance, take it now. You are impossible. And you are still here. She touched his jaw. For now. 6 weeks after the elevator, coffee changed everything. Nora carried Dante's cup into his office, and the smell turned her stomach so violently she barely placed it on the desk before running for the hall. Rosa found her gripping the bathroom sink. How late? Rosa asked. What? Rosa looked at her. Nora's hand went instinctively to her stomach. I don't know. Find out before you invent 10 other explanations. Nora purchased a test from a pharmacy 3 blocks away and waited until Dante left for a meeting. She sat on the bathroom floor while the seconds passed. 2 lines appeared. For several moments she felt nothing. Then wonder arrived, soft and terrifying. She placed both hands over her still flat stomach and imagined gray eyes, dark hair, a small hand closing around one of Dante's fingers. Love rose before fear could stop it. Then Camilla's words returned. Temporary, convenient, closed doors. The gala was 12 days away. Elena had sent formal invitations that morning. A private family announcement was listed before dinner. Nora did not need anyone to explain what announcement Elena intended. Her laptop chimed. Midnight Inc. Grand Serial Prize. Winner, Celia Vane. Nora read the message twice. Then a third time, $35,000. A publishing contract. Monthly royalties, health insurance. A partnership discussion. An invitation to reveal Celia Vane's identity at the Moretti Foundation Gala. She sat on the bed and laughed once, a broken sound between relief and disbelief. In one morning, she learned she was carrying Dante's child and earned enough money to leave him. The laptop he had given her had become the door out of his locked floor. She waited for him that evening. Dante arrived after 10, loosened his tie, and found Nora sitting near the windows. You are awake. I need to tell you something. His phone rang. He looked at the screen. 1 minute. He answered, turned toward the hall, and spent 15 minutes discussing the Serrano family, gala security, and Elena's insistence that dinner seating remain unchanged. Nora listened until courage became quiet. When he ended the call, he touched her shoulder. What were you going to say? Did you end the Serrano announcement? His expression closed. I told you nothing happens without my consent. That is not the same as ending it. I am handling it. When? Nora, before the gala? He exhaled. This is complicated. No, business is complicated. Choosing whether you intend to marry another woman is simple. I am not marrying Camilla. Then, say it where she can hear. I will deal with my family in my time. Nora understood his time could consume the rest of her dignity. She thought of the child inside her. She thought of Grant's house, where decisions arrived as protection and became walls. And what am I supposed to do until then? Trust me. You ask for trust only when you do not want to give an answer. Dante's gaze hardened. What happened today? Everything. Nothing. He caught her hand. You were going to tell me something. Nora looked at his fingers around hers. I won a writing contest. Surprise replaced suspicion. The stories? Yes. How much? 35,000. A genuine smile appeared. Talented girl. He pulled her closer and kissed her forehead. I knew the laptop was a good choice. Nora waited for him to ask what she wrote, what name she used, why the contest mattered, how many people read her work, or what the stories meant. He asked none of it. His phone rang again. I have to take this. He walked into the office. Nora stood alone with his kiss still warm on her forehead and the truth still locked inside her. He wanted her. He protected her. He knew the sound of her breath in darkness. He did not know the title of the world she had built. Nora packed after midnight. She took the clothes she owned before Moretti Tower, both laptops, her notebooks, original documents, and the pregnancy test wrapped in tissue. She left the designer dresses, jewelry, and private floor key. On Dante's desk, she placed the page containing the rules he had agreed to. The line about public dignity was circled. Beneath it, she placed one sentence from the chapter she finished that morning. She had loved him most after midnight. She left because she needed a life that survived the sun. Nora used the service stairs. She did not trust herself inside the elevator where everything had begun. Dante returned from a late meeting at 2. The penthouse felt wrong before he reached the private hall. Nora's light was off. Her door stood open. The room was empty. He saw the bare closet, cleared desk, untouched jewelry, and key beside the printed line. He read it once. Then again, the paper shook in his hand. Marco. His voice carried through the silent floor. Marco appeared within seconds. Boss? Find her. Marco looked into the room. Did she leave voluntarily? Dante turned. Find her. That was not my question. Every station, airport, hotel. She is not a fugitive. Dante's control cracked. He struck the glass panel beside the elevator. A web of fractures spread beneath his fist. Blood appeared across his knuckles. Find her, he said again, quieter. Make sure she is safe. Do not bring her back by force. Marco nodded. That is a better order. 3 days passed. Nora was not at the bus station, airport, or old rented room. The landlord said she had paid the final balance and collected her remaining bag before dawn. Grant's car arrived at 8 and found the room empty. By noon, Grant had begun calling every number connected to Nora's aunt. Dante did not sleep. The penthouse became a collection of absences. No soft footsteps in the library. No light beneath Nora's door. No quiet typing after midnight. Her scent faded from his sheets. The elevator bell rang, and his body turned before reason reminded him she would not step out. At night, he stood inside the repaired elevator and placed one hand against the mirror where her back had rested. He remembered the trembling yes before the first kiss, the courage with which she demanded that he ask, and the way she had looked at him in daylight when he failed to choose a sentence. For 3 years, he had believed emptiness was the worst thing a man could feel. He had been wrong. Wanting someone who had left because he hurt her was worse. On the 4th evening, Elena entered without waiting. Camilla followed. The gala is in 8 days, Elena said. You have missed 2 board meetings and canceled dinner with the Serranos. Dante stood near the windows, Nora's printed line folded inside his pocket. There will be no announcement. Camilla's face tightened. You are upset because the maid disappeared. Her name is Nora. Elena looked at him as if grief had made him irrational. Whatever arrangement you had can be handled privately. It is over. The arrangement? The Serrano alliance. Camilla stood. You do not mean that. Dante turned toward her. I have never meant anything more clearly. You would throw away years of planning for a woman who left without a word. She gave me every explanation. I refused to hear them. Elena's composure faltered. You barely know her. I knew enough to want her. I failed to know enough to keep her. Camilla's eyes went cold. She used your condition. She knew you had not touched a woman in 3 years and made herself available. Dante crossed the room so quietly Camilla stepped back before realizing it. Say one more word about her. Dante, 1. Camilla closed her mouth. Dante looked at his mother. Cancel the announcement. End every negotiation with the Serranos. If the business loses money, it loses mine. Elena stared. And if the girl never comes back? The question struck where no threat could. Then I will still have done one thing she asked. Chosen before it was too late. Vittorio Moretti arrived an hour later. Dante's father was 67, broad through the shoulders, his dark hair mostly silver. He had built the first Moretti Hotel before Dante finished school, and spent 4 decades treating emotion as an expense that should never appear on a balance sheet. The Serrano financing supports 4 projects, Vittorio said. Cancel the alliance and the board will challenge you. Let them. Camilla's father controls licensing. Not all of it. You have 8 days before the gala. Replace the financing or lose the projects. Dante looked at him. Done. Vittorio's eyes narrowed. For a maid? For the woman I should have chosen while she was still standing in front of me. Dante spent the next week restructuring deals he once considered untouchable. He sold a minority stake in a hotel, moved personal capital into the casino licenses, and found 2 independent partners who disliked the Serranos enough to accept lower returns. He did not do it to win Nora back. He did it because the next time he said no to Camilla, no boardroom would be able to turn that no into a negotiation. Nora rented a studio apartment above an old bookbindery in Little Italy. The floor leaned near the kitchen. The radiator clicked all night. The bathroom door did not close unless she lifted it by the handle. It was hers. She placed the old laptop on a second-hand desk and the new one beside it. She bought 1 chair, 2 plates, and a small plant she nearly killed during the first week. Midnight Ink assigned an editor named Julian Reed, who spoke quickly, carried too many folders, and treated Nora's chapters as valuable before knowing what she looked like. Her readership crossed 3 million. Videos appeared online of women crying over the locked floor king and cheering when the heroine finally left. Comments arrived from women who said Nora's fictional heroine helped them recognize the difference between being wanted and being valued. Nora attended her first prenatal appointment alone. The grainy image on the screen did not resemble a baby yet, but the small flicker of a heartbeat brought tears to her eyes. She almost called Dante. Instead, she saved the appointment date in a private folder and returned to writing. Elena Moretti requested Celia Vane's live identity reveal at the gala, unaware the writer had once replaced a cup of perfectly warm coffee at her command. Nora accepted. She told herself the decision was professional. She did not believe herself. Julian arrived at Nora's apartment with the final contract 6 days before the gala. "Full ownership remains yours," he said, spreading pages across the small table. Midnight Inc. receives exclusive serialization rights for 3 years. You receive 15% of platform profit connected to your catalog, plus the advance. Nora stared at the number. It was more money than Grant had once used to persuade Lydia that marriage was rescue. "And the reveal?" "Liv, Elena Moretti introduces you. No one on their side knows your identity." "No one?" "Not even Dante Moretti." A black sedan stopped below the window. Nora's pulse changed before she saw who stepped out. "Unfortunately," she said. Dante entered the building without Marco. By the time Nora opened the apartment door, Julian stood close beside her, one hand at her elbow as he explained a clause. Dante's gaze locked on the contact. "Take your hand off her." Julian looked over. "Mr. Moretti?" "Now." Nora pulled her arm free. "Dante, he is my editor." "You meet editors inside locked apartments?" "People who do not own towers use the rooms they rent." Julian gathered one folder. "Perhaps I should—" Dante caught his jacket before he passed. "You should. Let him go. He was touching you. Because I stood too quickly. He had no reason. You always decide before you ask." Nora stepped between them. "That is why I left." The room tilted. She gripped the table. Dante released Julian and caught her before she fell. "Nora, I'm fine. You are not. Put me down." "No." He lifted her into his arms and carried her to the couch. Julian hovered near the door. "She has been missing meals during revisions." Dante looked at him. "Leave." "Dante," Nora warned. Julian placed the contract on the table. "Call me tomorrow." He left. Dante knelt beside the couch and pressed one hand to Nora's forehead. "When did you last eat?" "I am not a child." That was not an answer. "Toast." "When?" "This morning." "It is 8. I was working." "On what?" Nora laughed without humor. "Now you ask." Dante flinched. Before he could answer, someone struck the apartment door hard enough to shake the frame. "Nora," her blood turned cold. Grant's voice. "Open this door." Dante rose slowly. "Who is that?" "The man I ran from." The next blow splintered the cheap lock. The door swung inward. Grant Mercer stepped inside wearing an expensive overcoat, and the expression of a man entering property he believed belonged to him. His hair was perfectly combed. His eyes were not. "There you are." He saw Dante and stopped. "Who are you?" Dante moved between them. "The last man you should have interrupted." Grant recognized him. "Moretti, leave. This is a private family matter. Nora is not your family. She is my fiancée." "No," Nora said. "I'm not." Grant looked past Dante. "Your aunt signed agreements. I paid the debts. I protected you after your mother died, and this is how you repay me? Hiding in a filthy room and selling obscene stories." Nora's stomach dropped. "How do you know about the stories?" Lydia found the contract email. $35,000. His mouth twisted. "You ran from a respectable marriage to write fantasies about criminals. Get out. You owe me." He stepped toward Nora. Dante blocked him. "She owes you nothing." Grant's face flushed. "Move. Try." Grant swung first. Dante caught the punch, turned his wrist, and drove him into the wall. The force knocked a framed print to the floor. Grant cursed and reached inside his coat. Dante struck him once across the jaw. Grant collapsed against the baseboard. "Do not reach for anything again," Dante said. Marco appeared in the doorway with 2 guards, as if he had been waiting downstairs despite Dante's claim of coming alone. "Boss?" Dante stood over Grant. "Remove him." Nora stepped forward. "No disappearing him." Marco's eyebrows rose. Dante turned toward her. "He broke into your apartment." "Then call the police. Get a restraining order. Use the law. I will not trade one man controlling my life for another deciding who vanishes from it." Grant wiped blood from his mouth and laughed. "You think he is different? Men like us do not ask." Dante's eyes went deadly. Nora placed a hand on his arm. "Do not prove him right." Dante's muscles remained rigid. Then he looked at Marco. "Police. Every charge available. Make sure the court receives the threats from her phone." Marco nodded. Grant was pulled upright. He looked at Nora. "This is not finished." Dante stepped toward him. Nora's hand tightened. Dante stopped. "It is," he said. "You simply have not understood yet." After Grant was taken away, silence settled over the damaged apartment. Dante remained near the broken door. Nora stood beside the couch with her arms folded over her stomach. "You found me. Yes. How?" "Marco followed publishing payment." "Records. That sounds illegal." "Probably." "You do not look sorry." "I am not sorry. I know where you are." "That is not the same as having the right to come. Here." Dante looked at the cracked lock. "You were not safe." "I was safer before you hit my editor and nearly killed Grant." "I did not nearly kill him." "That is your defense?" He ran a hand through his hair. "I have spent 4 days unable to breathe in my own home." "You managed for 38 years before me." "No." The word came rough. "I existed before you." Nora's anger faltered. Dante crossed the room but stopped beyond reach. "The penthouse is silent. I hear the elevator and expect you. I pass the library and remember you moving books I told you not to touch. I wake at 3 and look toward your door. I have searched every room for something you left behind. You left me behind every morning." No. You let Camilla humiliate me." No. You congratulated my work without asking what it was." His face tightened. "I know. Then why are you here?" "Because knowing what I did wrong did not stop me from loving you." Nora's breath caught. "I did not understand it while you were there," Dante said. "I called it hunger because hunger was easier. I called it protection because protection allowed me to remain powerful. Then you left, and neither word explained why every part of my life felt empty." He stepped closer. "I love the way you argue even when you need the money. I love that you rearrange books and pretend it is a moral duty. I love the sound of you typing behind a closed door. I love that you made me laugh and immediately threatened my reputation with it. I love that you were brave enough to leave when I gave you only half of myself." Nora's eyes filled. "You do not know all of me." "Then tell me." "You never asked. I am asking now." She looked at him for a long moment, then took his hand. Dante's expression softened, believing she was forgiving him. Nora guided his palm to her stomach. "There is something else you did not ask about." He went completely still. "Nora, I found out the day I won the contest." His fingers spread gently. "You are pregnant?" She nodded. Dante closed his eyes. The emotion crossing his face was too large for control. When he opened them, they were wet. "Ours?" "Yes." A broken sound left him. He lowered himself in front of her, one hand still over her stomach, and pressed his forehead against her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. Your phone rang. Then you told me the Serrano situation was complicated. It is over. Because I left? Because it should never have existed." He looked up. "Come home." Nora's tenderness hardened. "No," Dante stood. "Grant knows where you live. The police know who he is. This door is broken. It can be replaced. You are carrying our child. Our child. My body. My home." His jaw tightened from instinct, then slowly relaxed. "What do you want?" The question was clumsy but real. Nora looked around the small apartment. "I want to stay here." "Why?" "Because I paid for it with my words. This is the first home no one gave me in exchange for obedience. If you love me, you can come into my life instead of ordering me back into yours." Dante looked at the narrow couch, leaning floor and tiny kitchen. "There is nowhere for security. There is a street. The windows are not reinforced. They are windows. The building has one working camera. Then add another. After asking the landlord, he exhaled sharply. Nora almost saw the argument rise and die behind his eyes. All right, she blinked. All right? I will come here. You will not buy the building. I had not said that. You thought it. Briefly. Nora laughed. Dante stared, then smiled. It was the first smile she had seen from him in daylight. He replaced the broken door that night after asking the landlord. He added one camera outside the building after asking Nora. He assigned a car to remain at the end of the street, not beneath her window, after negotiating for 20 minutes and losing twice. Then the most feared man in Chicago began spending his evenings in an apartment above a book bindery. At first he arrived with enough food from Moretti hotels to feed the entire building. Nora sent half downstairs to Mrs. Alvarez, the elderly woman in the next apartment, and the rest to the bookbinder's family on the first floor. He objected when Nora continued publishing meetings alone. She objected when Marco appeared outside every appointment. They compromised on one driver and a check-in message. Dante slept badly on the narrow bed, so Nora offered the couch. He refused. They learned to fit. Some nights passion still consumed every available word. Dante would arrive after a long meeting, remove his jacket at the door, and look at Nora as though crossing the city had required restraint. He no longer hid what she did to him. He kissed her in the kitchen, against the bookshelf, beside the half-open window while the noise of ordinary life moved below. Other nights they talked until dawn. Nora told him about her mother, Lucia, who had hidden romance paperbacks inside cookbooks because Lydia called them foolish. She told him about the first story she wrote at 16, and the email from a 69-year-old reader who said Nora's heroine made her leave a man who had humiliated her for 40 years. Dante listened. "What did you answer?" he asked. That leaving was not the end of her story. And was it? No, she sent me a photograph from Florence last month. Dante smiled. You did that. The woman did it. You reminded her she could. It was the first time he treated Nora's writing as something larger than a hobby, though he still did not know the name Celia Vane. Dante told Nora less, but what he offered mattered. He described growing up in hotels where every dinner was a negotiation, and affection always arrived with expectations. His father praised results, his mother praised control, and weakness was corrected before anyone could comfort it. I learned how to provide everything except myself, he said one night. Nora rested her hand over his heart. You are learning. Slowly. Very. He kissed her fingers. Cruel. On the 7th morning, the smoke alarm woke Nora. She ran into the kitchen and found Dante standing over a blackened pan with a dish towel in one hand and a spatula in the other. Eggshells covered the counter. Bread soaked in uncooked batter sat on a plate. What happened? The stove is defective. It worked yesterday. Then the pan. The pan is cast iron. Unnecessarily hostile material. Nora covered her mouth. Are you laughing? No, you are. You tried to make breakfast. Rosa said French toast was simple. Rosa lied. Apparently. The smoke alarm continued screaming. Dante waved the towel while Nora opened the window. Mrs. Alvarez knocked. She froze when Dante opened the door in yesterday's trousers and an undershirt. No fire, he said. Mrs. Alvarez looked past him at Nora, then at the ruined kitchen. That is a shame. It would explain more. She returned to her apartment. Nora laughed until tears appeared. Dante watched with reluctant defeat. You enjoy this? Very much. I can order breakfast. No, sit. She repaired what she could and made fresh French toast while Dante watched from the tiny table. Morning light softened his face. There was no suit, no private floor, no Camilla, no locked elevator. Just a man learning to remain after sunrise. The following afternoon, Julian arrived with 3 cover designs for Nora's novel. He sat beside her at the small table, shoulders nearly touching as they compared fonts and images. Nora laughed when one design gave the fictional hero an absurdly large sword. Dante entered carrying grocery bags and stopped. His gaze moved from Julian's shoulder beside Nora's to the way she was still smiling. How long is the meeting? He asked. Julian looked up. As long as Nora needs. Dante placed the bags on the counter with unnecessary care. That was not the answer I hoped for. Nora gave him a warning look. Dante went into the kitchen and began cutting vegetables with enough force to alarm the cutting board. Julian glanced toward him. Is he always like this? This is improved. Remarkable. When Julian finally left, Nora entered the kitchen. Dante was slicing a carrot into pieces small enough for laboratory study. You wanted to throw him out? Yes. Why didn't you? Because you invited him. The answer warmed her. Dante set down the knife and turned. But the meeting is over now. Is that a question? No, Nora smiled. Good. She caught his shirt and kissed him first. Domestic calm did not erase the fire between them. He gave the fire somewhere to live. The gala invitation arrived that evening. Midnight Inc. requested Celia Vane's final confirmation for the live reveal. Nora accepted. Dante brought a garment bag to the apartment on the morning of the gala. For tonight, inside was a dark emerald gown. Nora touched the fabric, then closed the bag. It is beautiful. Wear it. I already have a dress. This one is better. According to whom? Everyone with eyes. Nora folded her arms. Dante, what is my pen name? He frowned. What? The name I write under. Silence. What is the title of the story that won the contest? Nora, how many people read it? I know it is successful. How successful? His expression changed as he understood. You did not tell me. You never asked. I asked what you wrote. After I left. Before that, you bought a laptop, called me talented, and returned to your phone. He rubbed the back of his neck, a rare sign of discomfort. You are right. Do you know why Julian was here? The contract. What kind? Publishing. What does it give me? He could not answer. Nora's voice softened. You know every sound my body makes. You know how I take coffee, which side I sleep on, and the exact moment I start lying when I say I am not jealous. But you do not know the name of the world inside my head. Dante looked at her with shame he did not hide. Tell me now, tonight, at the gala? Yes. Why? Because everyone else will learn too. His gaze sharpened. What have you agreed to? Something that belongs to me. The instinct to command rose in him. Nora saw it. Dante saw that she saw it. He stopped. Is it dangerous? Only to people who judge maids badly. A reluctant smile touched his mouth. You planned this. I wrote it. Nora wore a burgundy dress purchased with her own advance. It was simple at the shoulders, fitted at the waist, and entirely hers. Dante stared when she stepped from the bedroom. The emerald was better? She asked. No. You sound disappointed. I am trying to remember how language works. She smiled. He held out his hand. You will enter beside me. Not behind you? Never again. The Moretti Foundation Gala filled the tower's grand ballroom with politicians, actors, business families, and cameras broadcasting Midnight Inc.'s announcement live. Nora had crossed the same floor in uniform weeks earlier, carrying trays while guests looked through her. Tonight, conversations slowed as she entered with Dante's hand around hers. Camilla stood near the stage in white and silver. Elena spoke with media executives beneath a chandelier. Vittorio watched from the bar with an expression that revealed nothing. Marco remained near the private corridor, scanning every entrance. Nora felt the room measuring her. Some guests recognized the former maid from elevator gossip. Others knew only that Dante Moretti arrived beside a pregnant woman no society page had named. Dante's hand tightened. You can still leave, he said quietly. So can you. I am not leaving. Neither am I. A board member intercepted Dante before they reached the stage. Camilla used the opening. The little maid returns, she said. Former maid, temporary positions end, habits remain. Her gaze moved over Nora's burgundy dress. Did Dante buy that too? No. Then perhaps one of your new admirers did. I bought it. With his money? With mine. Camilla laughed softly. Nearby guests turned, sensing blood in the water. You truly believe one elevator and a few private nights made you his equal? I do not need to be his equal to know I am yours. Camilla's face hardened. You were never the woman he loved. You were the first body that finally worked for him in 3 years. The sentence reached places ordinary insults could not. Nearby, whispers stopped. Nora saw Dante pushing through the crowd. Camilla stepped closer. You did not escape Grant because you became independent. You simply found a richer man whose cage felt more exciting. Nora's fingers curled. Camilla smiled. You arrived with $12 and now wear Dante's desire as though you earned it. He is not in love with you. Your innocence made him feel powerful again. Dante was almost there. Camilla lifted her champagne glass. At night he calls you Nora. In daylight, half this room still knows you by your uniform. She tipped the drink across Nora's chest and dress. Gasps moved through the ballroom. Cold liquid ran down the burgundy fabric. Camilla's smile returned. Now you smell like the service floor again. Dante reached them. His face contained no restraint. Apologize. Camilla looked at him. Dante, now. Elena moved toward the stage microphone, aware now of the confrontation. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? Lights shifted. Camilla glanced at the cameras, then Dante. You would humiliate the Serrano family for her? Dante took the microphone from an event assistant before Elena could continue. No, he said. I will humiliate myself. The ballroom quieted. Nora stood soaked in champagne beneath hundreds of eyes. Dante stepped beside her. For weeks, many of you have discussed Nora Hale as if she entered my elevator with a plan. She did not. The elevator stopped. I kissed her. I moved her to my floor because after 3 years of feeling nothing, I could not tolerate the thought of never touching her again. Shock rippled through the guests. Camilla went pale. That was desire, Dante continued. What followed was cowardice. I wanted her privately, and allowed my family to treat her as temporary. I protected her from men who touched her body and failed to protect her when people damaged her. Dignity. His eyes found Nora. She left because I gave her passion in darkness and silence in daylight. No one moved. There will be no engagement between the Moretti and Serrano families. There was never my consent to one. Any business requiring me to deny the woman I love is business I do not want. Camilla's father started forward. Vittorio intercepted him with one raised hand. Dante faced the cameras. I choose Nora Hale. Not because of what she may become. Not because of what she carries. And not because she made my body remember desire. I choose her because losing her taught me desire was the smallest part of what I felt. Nora's breath broke. He had chosen her while the room still believed she was only the former maid. Camilla's father raised his voice. This is not finished. Elena stepped between him and the stage. For the first time, her attention settled fully on Camilla. No, your daughter did this to herself. Camilla stared. Because I spilled one glass? Elena's voice carried through the microphones. Because that glass revealed the woman you become when you believe someone beneath you cannot fight back. She faced the cameras. Effective tonight, every Moretti Serrano social, legal, and business arrangement is terminated. Camilla went white. Elena, Vittorio looked at security. Escort the Serranos out. Camilla's father began protesting about contracts, but the ballroom had already turned against them. Guests stepped aside as guards approached. Camilla looked at Nora one final time, but the cruelty had lost its confidence. Security removed the woman who had entered expecting to become a Moretti bride. By morning, the champagne clip would be watched 12 million times. Sponsors would cancel Camilla's charity appearances. 2 boards would request her resignation. The woman she had called temporary would become the face of Moretti Media's future. Camilla would become the woman every brand was trying to escape. Elena returned to the microphone. Her composure had fractured, but she continued. There is another announcement. The screen behind the stage illuminated with the Midnight Ink logo. Our digital platform has experienced unprecedented growth because of one anonymous author. Her serial has reached more than 12 million readers and generated the highest engagement in Moretti media history. Camilla, still near the doors under guard, stared at Nora as if sensing disaster before it arrived. Elena continued. Tonight, the writer known as Celia Vane has agreed to reveal her identity. A spotlight swept across the room. It stopped on Nora. Elena's lips parted. Nora? Camilla laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. No. Julian walked onto the stage holding a contract folder. Yes. The giant screen changed. The Man Behind the Locked Floor, by Celia Vane. Dante looked at the title. Understanding moved across his face in slow, devastating pieces. The laptop, the midnight typing, the women in the staff kitchen. Elena praising a writer while Nora poured coffee. The line Nora left beneath the private key. Nora stepped onto the stage in her champagne-stained dress. Cameras turned. Elena moved aside as though the woman she had ignored in uniform had become too large for the space. Nora accepted the microphone. I began writing because there were rooms in my life where I had no voice. Her gaze moved across the audience. On the page, a woman could refuse the life chosen for her. She could desire a powerful man without surrendering herself to him. She could leave a locked room even when part of her wanted to stay. Women near the back nodded. Some already had tears in their eyes. The story that brought me here was inspired by a man who knew how to make a woman feel unforgettable in darkness and invisible by morning. A few guests looked toward Dante. He did not look away. He protected me when danger had a face. He struggled when the danger was his own silence. Nora's voice strengthened. But this is not only his story. It belongs to every woman treated as valuable only after someone discovered what she could earn, create, or provide. She looked at Elena. My worth did not begin when Midnight Ink counted my readers. Elena lowered her eyes. Nora looked toward the doors where Camilla had disappeared. It did not begin when a powerful man chose me. Then at the servers along the walls. It was there when I wore a uniform. It was there when I had $12, no home after sunrise, and nothing except the belief that my life should remain mine. Applause began among the staff. Rosa stood first. Marco followed. The sound spread until guests were on their feet. Nora looked down at Dante. Tears stood in his eyes, and he did not hide them. When she left the stage, he met her at the bottom. Celia Vane. You finally asked. I should have asked sooner. Yes. The Man Behind the Locked Floor sounds difficult. He is exhausting. Does he improve? The ending is unfinished. Dante held out his hand. May I help? Nora placed her hand in his. You may try. They reached the terrace beyond the ballroom. The city burned beneath them. Guests remained inside, giving them a thin illusion of privacy. Dante turned to her. I had a speech. You already gave one. That was an apology. He reached inside his jacket and removed a small velvet box. Nora's breath caught. Dante! He lowered himself onto one knee. I bought this before I knew who Celia Vane was. Before I knew the contract, the readers, or the value of your name. He opened the box. The ring was simple, a clear stone above a thin band engraved with a tiny open doorway. I am not asking because you carry our child. I am not asking because your stories are worth millions. I am asking because I want the life you built without me, if you let me stand inside it. Nora's eyes filled. You are still very bad at breakfast. I can improve. You hate my apartment. Windows. They are objectively weak. You will not buy the building. I make no promises under emotional pressure. She laughed through tears. Dante's voice broke. Marry me, Nora. She opened her mouth. A side door slammed against the terrace wall. Grant stood beneath the archway wearing a catering jacket over his shirt. His face had healed badly from Dante's earlier blow. One hand held a compact pistol. The other shook with rage. She is not marrying anyone. Nora froze. Dante rose slowly and moved between them. Grant. You took everything. Grant's eyes fixed on Nora. The agreement, the money, Lydia's house. Now the city applauds you as if you built yourself. Nora's hand went protectively to her stomach. Put the gun down. You owe me. I owe you nothing. I paid your debts. You paid my aunt to control me. I saved you. No, you tried to purchase me. Grant's arm lifted. Dante stepped closer. Look at me. Grant's attention shifted. You think because you are Moretti, you can steal another man's wife. She was never yours. She would have been. That is not the same thing. Grant's finger tightened against the trigger. Marco appeared inside the doorway, but guests blocked his line of fire. "Boss," he warned. Grant aimed past Dante toward Nora. Everything happened in one violent second. Dante turned. The gun fired. Nora felt his body strike hers as he pushed her down. The shot echoed across the terrace. Dante staggered. A dark stain spread beneath his ribs. "Dante!" Grant tried to fire again. Marco's weapon cracked. Grant collapsed, clutching his leg, the pistol spinning across the stone. Guards surged through the doorway. Nora barely saw them. She dropped beside Dante as his knees struck the terrace. Blood soaked his white shirt. He looked at her face, not his wound. "Are you hit?" "No. The baby?" "We're safe." Her hands pressed against his side. Blood came through her fingers, hot and terrifying. "Why did you do that?" A weak smile touched his mouth. "Still asking obvious questions." "Do not joke." "You were going to answer. Then stay awake and hear it." His hand found hers, slick with his own blood. Was the speech too long? "Dante. Nora." His eyes began losing focus. "Look at me." She held his face. "You do not get to close your eyes." "Feels familiar." "Stay with me." Siren sounded below. Marco knelt and replaced Nora's hands with pressure from a folded jacket. "Ambulance is coming." Dante's fingers tightened faintly. The ring. It lay near the chair where he had knelt. Nora reached for it. "I have it." "Good. You are going to ask again." Demanding. "Yes." His eyes closed. "Dante!" Paramedics burst through the terrace doors. One pushed oxygen over Dante's face while another cut through the blood-soaked shirt. "Pressure is dropping," the younger medic said. Nora tried to keep hold of Dante's hand. "I'm here." He did not answer. "Dante, open your eyes." The monitor attached to his chest began a fast, uneven warning. His fingers slipped from hers. "Sir, can you hear me?" The paramedic shouted. No response. Nora's fear spiraled until the terrace, cameras, and screaming guests disappeared. "Dante!" A medic moved between them. "We need space. I'm not leaving him." "You are pregnant and covered in blood. Step back." Elena caught Nora before her knees gave way. The stretcher rolled toward the service elevator. Nora followed until the doors closed between them. The elevator bell sounded once. The same sound that had begun everything now carried Dante away, while he was no longer answering her voice. The ambulance doors opened below. Nora climbed inside despite the medic's protest. "I'm his fiancée." The word came before the answer she had given him. The medic glanced at the ring clenched in her bloody hand and allowed her beside the stretcher. The siren began. Dante's face looked pale beneath the oxygen mask. The monitor continued beeping too quickly. "Blood pressure 70/40, one medic said. "Prepare another line." Nora held Dante's hand. It was cold. "You asked me a question," she whispered. "You do not get to leave before I answer." The ambulance turned sharply. His body shifted beneath the straps. The monitor alarm changed pitch, pulse weakening. "Dante." Nora pressed his fingers against her cheek. "The answer is waiting. Stay." The paramedic pushed medication into the line. For 3 terrible seconds, the monitor showed no improvement. Nora heard only the alarm and her own voice repeating his name. Then one stronger beat appeared. Another followed. "We have him," the medic said. "Keep talking to him." Nora spoke all the way to the hospital. She told him their child was safe. She told him Marco had the gun and Grant was alive to face prison. She told him Camilla's champagne had ruined a dress she never liked that much. She lied about the dress. She promised to replace every black suit he stained with blood if he opened his eyes. He did not. The hospital swallowed him behind operating room doors. Nora remained in the waiting room wearing a champagne-stained dress beneath Dante's blood-soaked jacket. A doctor confirmed the baby was unharmed, but Nora barely heard the reassurance until Elena repeated it. "The child is safe." Nora pressed both hands over her stomach. "Dante?" "Still in surgery." Vittorio stood near the windows, looking older than he had hours earlier. Marco sat with blood on his cuffs and the velvet ring box in his hand. Rosa arrived before midnight, carrying clean clothes Nora refused to wear. "Not until he wakes." Rosa sat beside her. "Then we wait." 1 hour passed, then 2. The surgeon had estimated 3. At 4 hours, no one came. Every time the operating doors opened, Nora stood. Every time a nurse emerged for another family, she sat again. The dried blood on her fingers tightened the skin around her nails. Elena watched the clock until Vittorio removed it from the wall and placed it face down on a table. "That does not stop time," she said. "It stops you staring at it." At the 5th hour, a nurse entered and asked for permission to use more blood. Nora's heart stopped. Why? He has lost more than expected. Is he alive? The surgical team is working. The nurse disappeared before Nora could ask anything else. Nora went into the bathroom and finally saw herself in the mirror. Champagne dried across the burgundy dress. Dante's blood covered both hands, her forearms, the front of his jacket, and the tiny open-door ring she still held. For one irrational second, she imagined washing the blood away would erase proof that he had touched death. She did not turn on the water. She returned to the waiting room with the stains intact. At 6 hours, the surgeon appeared. His cap was in one hand. His expression revealed nothing quickly enough. Nora stood so fast Rosa caught her elbow. "Mr. Moretti is alive," he said. Her knees nearly failed. The bullet damaged his liver and caused severe internal bleeding. "We repaired the injury. He required a significant transfusion, and his condition remains critical." "Can I see him?" "Not yet. The next 24 hours are important." "Will he wake?" The surgeon paused. That pause became its own terror. "We expect him to. I cannot promise when." Dante remained unconscious for 2 days. Nora sat beside him and read The Man Behind the Locked Floor from the beginning. She read the elevator scene she had changed enough to hide, but not enough to forget. She read the heroine's anger, the hero's failures, and the chapter women had quoted across the internet. Elena visited quietly. Vittorio handled the board. Marco stood outside the hospital room like a stone statue. Rosa forced Nora to eat. On the second night, Nora reached the unfinished ending. "The locked floor king opened every door," she read softly. Not because he expected her to stay, but because love without freedom was another beautiful room. A rough voice interrupted. "He still sounds unbearable." Nora's head snapped up. Dante's eyes were partly open. "You're awake." "Apparently." She leaned over him, laughing and crying at once. "Do not move. You always order me around in medical situations. This is the first medical situation. Feels like more." His eyes searched her face. "Baby? Safe. You? Safe. Grant? Alive, arrested, extremely unpopular." Relief softened him. Then he looked at her closed hand. "The ring?" Nora opened her fingers. "Still here. I asked a question. You were shot before I answered. Poor timing. Terrible." Dante tried to lift one hand. Nora took it carefully. His grip was weak. "Nora Hale, will you marry me?" Tears returned. "Not because I'm pregnant?" "No. Not because Celia Vane makes your company rich?" "You retain full ownership." I checked before getting shot. "Not because I'm the only woman your body responds to?" His thumb moved against her skin. That was how this began. "It is not why I am asking." "Then why?" "Because you are the first person who made me want morning as much as midnight." Nora lowered her forehead to his hand. "Yes." Dante's breath left slowly. "Yes?" "Yes, I'll marry you." "You could sound more enthusiastic." She laughed and kissed him gently. "You are impossible. Your readers already know." Recovery humbled Dante in ways injury alone could not. He returned to Nora's apartment rather than the penthouse because she refused to move during pregnancy. He complained about the stairs until the doctor permitted him to use them without assistance. He tried to work from the small table and discovered Nora's deadlines did not pause for Mafia meetings. He read every chapter of The Man Behind the Locked Floor, including scenes that made him arrogant, emotionally blind, and occasionally ridiculous. "Did I truly say this?" he asked one evening. Nora looked at the screen. "You said something worse. I improved you. Unacceptable. Readers love the improved version. Do they love the real one?" Nora touched the scar beneath his ribs. "One does." Midnight Ink launched Nora's first novel 3 months later. It became a bestseller within a week. Nora negotiated her contract with Julian, created a fund for women escaping coercive engagements, and bought the apartment above the bookbindery rather than letting Dante buy it for her. He purchased the empty unit beside it after asking, then opened a doorway between them to create space for the baby. "This is not buying the building," he told her. "It is buying half the floor. A technical difference. An important one." Elena began visiting without assistance. The first time she brought no diamonds, gifts, or advice. She asked Nora about the book and listened to the answer. Rosa later declared this evidence of personal growth. Vittorio offered Nora a seat on the media board. She declined and negotiated a distribution contract instead. Marco accompanied her to court when Grant's attorneys attempted to discredit her. Grant accepted a plea agreement that guaranteed years in prison and a permanent protective order. Nora's aunt wrote twice, asking forgiveness and money. Nora answered once. Forgiveness might come later. Money would not. When Dante had fully recovered, he asked Nora to meet him in the lobby of Moretti Tower after closing. The private elevator had been repaired months earlier, but Nora had not entered it since the first night. Dante stood inside wearing a black suit without a tie. The doors were open. "You have a strange attachment to dramatic locations," Nora said. "I learned from a best-selling author." "What are we doing here?" He held out his hand. Nora stepped to the threshold but did not enter. Dante did not pull. "The first time these doors closed, I wanted you before I understood anything about you." He looked at the mirrored walls. "I believe desire was the miracle. It was a memorable 23 minutes. You remember the number?" "I wrote the scene." His gaze returned to her. "The miracle was not that my body woke up. It was that you remained yourself. While I tried to fit you into the smallest part of my life, I knew how to offer." He opened the velvet box again. "This time the doors stay open. You can step in, remain there, or walk away. I am asking, not deciding." Nora looked behind him. Marco, Rosa, Elena, Vittorio, Julian, and Mrs. Alvarez stood near the lobby columns. Rosa was already crying. Marco pretended not to notice. "You arranged an audience. Your readers expect public payoff. You finally understand stories. I have an excellent teacher." Nora stepped into the elevator. Dante slid the ring onto her finger. The doors remained open when he kissed her. They married on the rooftop of Moretti Tower in bright afternoon sunlight. Nora wore ivory silk curved gently over her 5-month pregnancy. Rosa and Marco walked her down the aisle because they had protected her without asking to own her. Elena sat beside Vittorio and cried openly. Mrs. Alvarez brought the blackened pan from Dante's first breakfast attempt as a wedding gift. Julian threatened to include the story in Nora's author biography. When the officiant asked whether anyone objected, Rosa turned toward the guests. "Consider your answer carefully." Laughter moved across the rooftop. Dante took Nora's hands. "I spent 3 years believing I had lost the ability to want," he said. "Then I met a woman who taught me wanting was easy. Seeing her completely was harder. Loving her honestly was harder still. I promised to keep learning." Nora looked at the man who had once known every secret in his tower except the woman cleaning its private rooms. "I spent years writing powerful men because fiction allowed me to control the ending. Then I met one who ruined every plan I had. I promised to love you without becoming smaller, forgive you without forgetting myself, and remind you whenever necessary that French toast is not a weapon." Dante almost smiled. "That final condition seems excessive. It is non-negotiable. Accepted." Their daughter was born 4 months later. They named her Lucia, after Nora's mother. Dante held the baby as if the entire city had been reduced to 6 pounds of sleeping trust. Nora watched him pace the apartment at 2 a.m, whispering business advice to a child who could not hold up her head. "She does not need to understand hotel acquisitions," Nora said. "Early education matters. She needs milk. That too." The Man Behind the Locked Floor became the first of 5 novels. Readers continued asking which parts were real. Nora always gave the same answer, the most unbelievable ones. Years later, Moretti Tower employees still told the story of the night the private elevator stopped and the new maid emerged beneath Dante Moretti's arm. Some said she had bewitched him. Others said the most feared man in Chicago had finally met the one woman brave enough not to fear him properly. Nora knew the truth was less magical and more difficult. The elevator awakened Dante's hunger. Losing Nora awakened his heart. Loving her taught him to leave every door open. For 3 years, Dante had believed the miracle would be finding a woman who could awaken his body. Nora taught him the real miracle was becoming a man worthy of her heart.